Hey there, folks. Welcome to the Whitfield Report, Wednesday edition. I am your host, Sam Whitfield, recording here in the studio. And I have a quick show for you today. First off, I want to make a quick announcement that the Thursday show will be becoming the Wednesday show for now. So I do the live podcast on Saturday, as you know, and then I usually like to do a podcast kind of in the middle of the week, usually on Thursdays, to kind of catch up on news, current events, maybe do movie reviews, whatever. Just talk with you guys one-on-one without having to worry about the live stream, or the chat or anything like that. Usually I do that on Thursdays, as you guys know, but this semester with school, my Thursdays are looking pretty busy. So with that in mind, I think it would be best if we moved it to Wednesdays for now. Who knows? Wednesdays could be the new days in general for the audio podcast. But definitely for this semester, until roughly December, we will be doing the show on Wednesday. So just wanted to make that quick announcement regarding the show. And with that in mind, like I said, I don't have too much for you today, but two topics I wanted to cover. I would like to cover the second night of the RNC, kind of give my thoughts on that, and then kind of cover some more COVID-related stuff. So last night, Tuesday night, was the second night of the Republican National Convention. To be honest, I didn't catch the whole thing, and I really didn't catch any of the first night. But the big highlights were Nick Sandmann's speech on Tuesday night. He's the Covington Catholic school kid who got defamed by MSNBC and CNN, took them to court and ended up winning for defamation. So he was a big speaker there. Pretty much his, speech was, don't let the media slander you. It was very, pro-free speech, anti-censorship on his part. And one thing that struck me in particular is someone on Twitter, in fact, my friend Semper Reloaded, who runs that YouTube channel, he brought up the point that, back in the 80s, it was the, religious right, so to speak, during the era of Reagan, who was, very censorous of content, with those 80s action movies. They were trying to censor those and ban those with the FCC, and it was the left who was, for, free speech at the time. Same thing with, video games in the 90s and early 2000s. I certainly remember that. And, now in the age of social media and whatnot, free speech has kind of become a right-wing, talking point or an issue, so to speak. And, Semper's point to that in his tweet was that really free speech shouldn't be a partisan issue. But it is interesting how the two kind of political parties have kind of taken over that issue of free speech at, one point or another. So, I thought the Nick Sandmann thing was good. One speech that I thought was a little ridiculous on Tuesday night was Tiffany Trump's speech. Her speech was basically, a rah-rah for my father is a great president, and, he really cares about America. And, if you care about America, you will vote for Donald Trump because, a vote for Trump basically is a vote for America. Now, I'm conservative myself. I support Trump, but as someone who has been in this game for a while now, considering my age, I am a conservative libertarian, but I do like to try and think about things more than just the regular straw man argument. And so, a vote for Trump is a vote for America. Well, obviously that's part of the whole Make America Great Again thing, I guess, but it's not that nuanced. It's not that deep. It just seemed very superficial, and it seemed more like an infomercial more than anything. That's the best way I can put it. So that was Tiffany Trump's speech. Then they had Pam Bondi, who is the AG who is the former Attorney General of Florida. And it's interesting because there wasn't a whole lot of attacking Biden this go-around. I'm not sure about Monday because, again, I didn't really watch, Monday night's convention because that was the first day of classes and I was busy with everything. But, Pam Bondi did go hard after Biden and, brought up the fact that Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's son, was connected to Ukraine, and that really Biden was the scandalous one. As I was saying, Biden is the scandalous one and not Trump. That was kind of her point in bringing that whole thing up. And, her spiel was basically, if you don't trust establishment politicians, vote for, Trump. Well, it's kind of funny because, that's what Trump ran on in 2016, and early on, you could say that like in 2015 and 2016, but now, Trump is the president of the United States. He is a politician, like or not. Yeah, he might be an outsider compared to someone like Joe Biden, who's been there for 47 years, and that was one of the points that she brought up, and I agree with her on that. But, to pretend that Trump is still like some underdog outsider, he is, that's not the case anymore. He is the most powerful man in the world. He's the president of the United States. And so, I don't know, just kind of the, it seemed like the first half of the convention, especially with like Pam Bondi and Tiffany Trump, was just a lot of, cheerleading for Trump. Not a whole lot of, serious, campaign promises. It just kind of seemed, like filler, basically. And at that point, I kind of took like a little bit of a break. I did see Pence's quote-unquote speech. I don't really know if you could call it that. Basically, what they did with Mike Pence, which I found interesting, was they basically pre-recorded his speech, for lack of a better term, and he was back in Indiana, and it appears that he was outside of the front of Abraham Lincoln's childhood home, where President Lincoln grew up. And Pence made the comparison between Lincoln and basically implied that Trump was the modern day Abraham Lincoln, which I get the metaphor that both Trump and Lincoln were presidents during really uncertain times, so I get that metaphor, but I'm not sure you can really compare Trump to Lincoln even suddenly. It just seems kind of forced. But the one thing that he did do, which I thought was really, interesting, was he interviewed like several different Americans, and kind of brought them on. It was staged, obviously, somewhat, but to ask them how like their lives have, improved. So, one of the big things that the, Trump administration has touted was the, the First Try Act, which basically allows for, terminally ill patients to try out experimental treatments, without any penalties or, something like that. So Trump had a family on about that. Then he had a family on that talked about like Trump's Relief Act during COVID and how it helped their small business. Then he had a law enforcement officer on to talk about kind of restoring law and order and also fighting the opium epidemic. So, Pence's whole shtick was, a myriad better than Tiffany Trump or Pam Bondi. But obviously, because of COVID, it was kind of pre-filmed, and you could definitely tell it was, kind of pre-filmed and pre-broadcast. It felt very, cinematic, and they did a good job, but nevertheless, it was obviously pre-recorded, and, I don't know. I feel like they could have just set up like a live, feed, for Pence to speak at his home or, in the Naval Observatory or wherever, rather than do this whole like, pre-filmed, kind of edited and scripted movie that they did. But, it wasn't bad. The big event of the evening was Melania Trump's speech on the, on the White House lawn in the Rose Garden. And it was interesting because before the speech even happened, there was a lot of criticism of Melania for basically having the speech on the Rose Garden. The press kind of said that she was using the whole thing as an opportunity for politics, that was a political stunt. And the White House fired back and said that, because of COVID, the president can't really go anywhere. He can't really, change the venue, which, to be fair, I think, is kind of true. I think, it is kind of for the best that the First Lady and the President do their things from the White House. Because they're the first family, but also, because of COVID and because, obviously people aren't allowed to, gather in large groups at convention halls right now. And so, if they did that, then they would get criticized for doing that. But, Melania's speech, I think, was very well done. She talked about American unity in this time of crisis and bringing Americans together, and how, the American people have inspired her and President Trump to keep fighting for America. And, she shared some personal stories of people who have reached out to her during this whole COVID crisis. And she also talked about, how she herself is an immigrant and how America is a great country and how she's, how she struggled to become an American citizen and, growing up in this Soviet Union and coming to America and fulfilling her American dream of, being in the fashion industry and being a model at first, and then, owning her own business with, Trump as her husband, and then joining him in the White House. Again, it was a little bit of a stump speech, but it felt more genuine, I guess. It felt more realistic and not so much like a, direct campaign ad as the other speeches did. So overall, I really liked Melania Trump's speech to end the evening. I guess my biggest problem with both of these conventions, whether it be the DNC or the RNC this year, is both of them seemed overly scripted this year and kind of programmed. And I suppose you could say that that's the case for like all these political events to a certain extent, but it just, since everyone is doing everything virtually this year, it just felt, different. And to be honest, there were some people who watched, the convention and whatnot, but there were a lot of people on my timeline, even politicos, like Apex Gamma, my co-host, and, others who usually would tune into this type of thing. But, I think just because of 2020 and because of quarantine, I think a lot of people are kind of sick of politics right now, to be honest, and I think it's very apparent to people that that is the case. People just aren't really up for politics like they usually are, and it's very apparent. So, is the RNC getting more traction than the DNC? Yeah, and I mean, a lot of conservative YouTube channels out there are acting like, the RNC is beating the crap out of the DNC in terms of rating, and that, people are much more engaged. And that might be true a little bit, but like I said, more often than not, I think it's a case of people just aren't really all that motivated by politics. And honestly, I think people are, more interested in finding out what the president himself has to say and what the administration has to say for themselves this year. No one really watched the DNC this year. I certainly didn't. And, no one I knew really watched it. And, my friend Ray from I Am the Empire and Ion 2020, he said that the DNC was a, big snooze fest, basically. And I can't say I disagree with him. So, I'm curious to really hear what he has to say about the RNC. But like I said, it doesn't seem like a whole lot of people are motivated to watch either convention, right? So it'll be interesting to see how the convention wraps up. I think either tonight being Wednesday night. I don't know if Trump is accepting the nomination tonight or tomorrow night being Thursday, but it'll be interesting to hear what happens regardless. And I will certainly comment on that on Saturday night's show, so stay tuned for that. But one thing I do want to talk about tonight is the fact that we are now in, we're now in late August. It's pretty much September for all intents and purposes. And, as much as I hate to say it, ladies and gentlemen, we're in COVID for the long haul now, and I'm not trying to be negative about it, but the one thing that I do find increasingly curious is that on both sides of the aisle, whether it be Republican or Democrat, people seem to think that if Joe Biden is going to win, that we're somehow going to get out of COVID, sooner, within like 2021. And then, on the right, they think that if Trump gets reelected, we're going to get out of COVID in 2021. Well, I hate to say it, but we really don't know what is going to happen until, who knows? And honestly, I don't think the election will have that much of effect on vaccines or whatever. The fake virus people, the virus hoax people, they think that Biden is like somehow withholding the cure, and that if Trump gets reelected, they'll withhold it, and because deep state man and all of that jazz. I don't think that's true. But by the same token, I certainly don't think that I don't think the opposite is true either if you're a Democrat. I think that ultimately this is going to come down to, the scientists and the scientific community all coming together and collaborating and, figuring out, what causes this virus and how to cure it. And even that is going to take a while because, scientists all disagree on things. And, when you're talking about scientists and science as a rule, and this is something that the politicians love to ignore, right? True science is not political. So there is no consensus ever on anything in science, if that makes sense. You're never going to have every single scientist, directly agree on how to, fight COVID, and they're still researching it. So, I guess eventually once enough of them concede, and agree on like a solution, then we will get a cure. But until then, I'm not really holding out hope that will be the case. I think we're in this for the long haul, and so I would just encourage people to, buckle down and batten down the hatches because we are not going anywhere anytime soon. I don't think, as much as I hate to say it. Yeah, masks, annoy me. Yeah, the social distancing crap annoys me too. I'm not so sure how much longer any of us can take, but, we have to continue to sit tight and, encourage each other to hang in there. Starting school this week, I have to be honest, I am not as excited as I have been in the past. I'm doing classes online this year, and yeah, it's nice to be able to stay at home and work from home, but then again, I'm working from home, so I'm not really, relaxing or chilling like I usually like to do at home. I'm, studying and doing my work and, all that. So, not that enjoyable. It has its pluses, but, I miss going out. I miss seeing my friends. I'm in the same boat that a lot of people are. And, people are like, oh, well, we're going to, in 2021, things are going to reopen fully. We don't know that. Things could shut down again completely in, November or December. Maybe January we'll have another wave. Who knows? Maybe things will reopen in 2021 fully, and we'll be back to normal. Maybe it'll happen a year from now, maybe 5 years from now. I don't know. But I am not counting on any politician to save us. I'm not counting on any politician or bureaucrat to say we have all the answers. So do this. And I do find it a little bit sad that we're basically just waiting for our leaders to basically tell us what to do. It's it's sad, and the libertarian in me is crying. But anyway, folks, I would just encourage you to be good to one another, stay safe, check up on each other, be good to one another, keep your head up high, pray if that's your thing. If not, send well wishes to one another, whatever you need to do to get through the days here, and, all that stuff. And with that, folks, I want to thank you for tuning in to the Whitfield Report. I will be back on Saturday evening live on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/The Whitfield Report, DLiveTV.com/The Whitfield Report, and on Periscope as well. If you like this podcast, again, please give me a 5-star rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. If you're able to, please keep spreading this podcast around. And folks, I really appreciate your support of the podcast and of the show. And I will see you on the next edition of the Whitfield Report on Saturday. Until then, God bless, God save this great nation, God, freedom, legacy, in that order, as my friend John Neer likes to say. And I'll see you next time on the Whitfield Report. Hey there, folks. If you've made it this far to the end of the podcast, I'd like to thank you very much for listening to the show. You are the ones that make it possible for me to make an income from podcasting, and I greatly appreciate that just by listening to our show. You are helping us gain ad revenue. However, if you would really like to help support the show, I encourage you to please donate to the podcast and become a supporter of the show. You can head over to anchor.fm/Whitfield Report and click the support this podcast button and choose the amount that suits you to support the show. Or you can click the link in the show notes and it will directly take you to that page. If you can support the podcast, I really, really appreciate that. Anything that you can do to help out is greatly appreciated. Even if you can't afford to help financially support the podcast, I encourage you to please go on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or Stitcher, and please leave this podcast a positive 5-star review. That really helps us out here at the Whitfield Report. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next episode.